Welcome to the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions. My name is Kimberly Jackson, and I'm so honored to have you all today. This is an important time in our community where we're trying to coalesce and make sure that we can all work together to make sure that artists in our community have the time to do their art, but also navigate challenges during this COVID crisis. Our program today is on how to access funds and community resources. And I want to thank in advance the Arts Alliance, particularly John Collins, who came to me with this idea of how can we quickly and swiftly educate our community on the best resources to help them navigate challenges. Just a quick back note, John is responsible for reviewing many grants, and he often helps artists around the community with a lot of other lead artists. And what they noticed was that people were having significant challenges just coping with life, right? And so what we want to do today is share that time frame. I'd like to thank in advance the St. Petersburg Arts Alliance initiative with support from the Foundation for Healthy St. Pete through Grow Smarter. And I would also like to take the time at this moment to thank our significant partners today. And there are numerous, so you'll forgive me when I read them. We have, of course, the Pinellas County Economic Development. We have the Pinellas County Urban League. We have the St. Petersburg Free Clinic. Most importantly, we have the City of St. Petersburg Arts Advisory and Creative Pinellas, along, of course, as I stated, with the St. Petersburg Arts Alliance, Grow Smarter, and Greenhouse. Again, usually we spend a lot of time on bios. I don't think it's important today. I think what's important is that you access the information. You'll see that we have numerous panelists, and the panelists include Jessica Ellerman of the St. Petersburg Fighting Chance Fund, Kim Vogel and Jocelyn Howard of the St. Pete's Business Resiliency Team and Arts Navigator, Dr. Cynthia Johnson and Daisy Rodriguez of Pinellas Cares Funds for Individuals and Pinellas Cares Small Business Grants, Reverend Watson Haynes of the Pinellas County Urban League, and Shana Ben of the St. Petersburg Free Clinic. With any program, we will have some technical challenges, and we just ask for you to bear with us. Right now, we're going to start our program with Jocelyn and Kim in light of that. If ladies, if you will please make sure that you have your video on and your microphone on. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what St. Pete's Business Resiliency Team and Arts Navigator is doing for the community. And Jocelyn, I think we're going to start with you with Grow Smart as a Grow Smarter manager. Thank you for your time, Jocelyn. We'll look forward to hearing your presentation, followed by Kim's.
Thank you, Kimberly. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jocelyn Howard. I manage Grow Smarter. Grow Smarter is an economic development strategy with a focus on equity, and we define that by aiming to reduce gaps by race and place in St. Pete. So the way Grow Smarter does that is through building connections between nonprofit, between private sector and the public sector, and advancing conversations as well as sparking action in the community. So we have a few ways we've been taking action during this time of COVID-19. I wanted to share some of those with you because it's a great resource as we're talking about accessing resources today. One is that we have funded several Wi-Fi hotspots on the Deuces Live corridor, which is 22nd in St. Petersburg. Those are free to the community. We have also worked with St. Petersburg College to create a scholarship that we're calling the Grow Smarter Scholarship. One of the areas that this scholarship is covering includes the arts. So you can find that on SPC's website. I can also post a link in the chat for you all. It covers certification programs for incoming students. And the third project that I'm going to be talking about today with Kim is the Business Resiliency Team. This was created really as a kind of a response team during COVID. It is open to businesses and nonprofits in St. Petersburg with the goal of bringing them back to stability as quickly as possible. So I'm going to turn it over to Kim to talk a little bit more about the BRT.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Kim?
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly, and thanks, Jocelyn, for handing that on over. It has been an extremely interesting time, obviously, and we decided that one of our best responses would be to build out this kind of emergency response team, or we're calling it a business resiliency team. And that just really means that we have a group of professionals that are literally, I would say, virtually hitting the streets, if you will, and doing everything possible to check in with as many small business owners as possible, focused on our solopreneurs, our minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and just all of those businesses that are feeling a little bit stuck, or when all you do is work on in your business and you don't really get that chance to work on your business, and then you find that you're in a crisis situation, as we are right now, that sometimes your resiliency has a tendency to be down. And so what we're really trying to do is to say, hey, listen, we've got your back. We are here to walk this journey with you. We're here to identify the needs that you may have and to really connect you with resources and a network that we have built of professionals, experts, if you will, whether accountants, marketing people, attorneys, HR folks, whatever it is that you may need to make sure that you're getting your questions answered. And we know that there are gaps, and we know that it is not easy being an entrepreneur and a small business owner in normal times. And now it is even more important. And so we're just really here to make sure that that we can bring as many businesses to some sense of stability. And, one of the conversations that we have continued to have with John is that, our artists and our art community are so much ingrained in who we are, that it is crucial that we treat that as businesses, and that we give every possible option for survival. And we have done that too by making sure that we have one of our navigators that is a full-time arts navigator who is working with as many artists as possible. So if you have not heard from our arts navigator and that is something that you're interested in, we will put our email in the chat so that you can reach out, and we can make sure that we get you connected with one of our navigators for sure. So thank you guys for this opportunity.
Thank you, Kim. You mentioned a lot of things. First, you mentioned the word stuck, and I appreciate you saying that. And Jocelyn, you mentioned the word scholarship. Of course, at SBC, we have a significant number of our students who are in the artistic field, and I'm sure that they're having challenges. But in general, what you mentioned about being stuck when we are a community that relies on our art for a lot of different reasons, to bring in tourism, to bring in life to our community, and to also to support the community. You mentioned this navigator system, and I want to make sure that people understand what an arts navigator is. Are you saying that someone calls you and you have a specific person assigned to you, and they address the issues you need to have a substantive supportive business? And with regard to scholarship, are you all saying, Jocelyn, that you can apply for scholarships and you get a specific amount to sustain yourself during COVID? I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. When it comes to the navigation journey, is that navigator is there to really answer your questions, to make sure that you know of all of the resources. And as things continue to change, truly on a day-to-day, sometimes hour-by-hour basis, whether it's in reopening policy or making sure that anybody who walks through your gallery has a mask from here on out. What do those things look like, and how can we help and be supportive to make sure that you have all of the resources that you need?
Thank you. Jocelyn, did you have anything to add about the scholarship that you mentioned?
Absolutely. So the scholarship is covering certification tracks in our Grow Smarter focus areas. Like I mentioned, one of those is the arts. And this scholarship goes beyond COVID and is kind of prioritizing people who have worked and are working currently in industries that are really affected by COVID and maybe have lost their jobs as well as a result of that. So take a look. Again, I'll add the website in the chat. And like I said, the arts is one of the main focus areas that we're funding through that scholarship.
Thank you. So I would also ask our participants to please start loading questions in the Q&A. If you have a question specific to a panelist or an organization, you can put the @ symbol and their name and the organization, and they can answer the question in a written format. If it's a question, of course, I think is important for all of us to elaborate on, then of course that question will be asked of the entire panel. So we finally have, I think Jessica's with us. Jessica, is that right?
Yes, I'm here via phone.
Okay, well, again, we talked about this. Sometimes technology is not our friend, but we're going to go today, and we appreciate your time, Jessica. Jessica, if you will a little bit about the St. Petersburg Fighting Chance Fund and about some of the opportunities that you can offer to our community during this challenging time.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for the opportunity. The city of St. Petersburg really felt we needed to do whatever we could to be as helpful as possible to our small businesses to sustain during really unprecedented time. A global pandemic is something that changes habits and behaviors very quickly. So there was an extreme change in how our clients and customers were consuming and making buying decisions. And that, of course, always impacts our small businesses. So as the government orders were starting to come down in the beginning of March, the city of St. Petersburg organized a Fighting Chance Fund, and that is funded with dollars from the city's budget. So this is not a pass-through from any kind of federal program. This is money that the city is investing directly into our small businesses. And we put together the fund as a grant program. So it is a pure business grant. And it is to provide relief to our small businesses who've been impacted by the local COVID-19 orders. And really, this is put together as an emergency grant. And the reason the name is Fighting Chance Fund is because that's truly what we're trying to do with it. We initially had it as a hoping to bridge to later on this summer to help our businesses make those pivots and navigate this very fast and rapid change that has happened. We are now in the third round of the program. So each step along the way, the eligibilities have widened and become a little bit more flexible each time. And so where we sit today is a program that has two different ways to access the funds. One is through a brick and mortar or storefront application. That means truly what it is, a brick and mortar. You have a business with a business location in the city of St. Petersburg. That would be the application you'd be applying for. Okay. If you are a home-based business, we now have expanded eligibility to include home-based businesses to be eligible to apply for the funds. We saw in the first two rounds of the program where home-based businesses were not eligible, we had many saying and actually still applying for the funds, in fact, and we had to, because of the eligibility requirements, we could not move those forward to fund. So in this round, it was really important to leadership that we ensured that home-based businesses would have an opportunity to apply for these funds. So there is a home-based business application.
So
you can find
business. Can you share a little bit about, is there specific criteria for what qualifies as a home-based business?
Yeah, there is actually specific criteria for both programs. Okay. So we can certainly talk about a home-based business program. Essentially, with that grant amount is $2,000. And the home-based business would need to be located in the city of St. Petersburg for at least 12 months. And the business does need to be in the home and the business for 12 months in the city of St. Petersburg. If you are in one of our areas where you have a St. Pete business, a St. Pete mailing address, but you're kind of on the border, because we do have some mailing addresses that are St. Petersburg that are actually an unincorporated Pinellas, we have a simple address check feature on our webpage for the program. And all you would need to do is click that and you can verify your address right there. So if there's any question at all, we do have that built into the web page so you can do a quick check. The big piece of eligibility, we have no industry requirement. So any home-based business in any industry can apply and would be eligible. But the big piece for eligibility is in this one area, which is your gross revenue. So there is a minimum of $17,000 in gross revenue for the period, the year before. So it's really any kind of documentation, and that's going to be in your required documents in the application, which would be either your tax return, a profit and loss statement, something along those lines. Both would be acceptable. You would need to demonstrate and document that minimum gross revenue. That is really the one very specific eligibility requirement. But all of the previous requirements, so if we have anyone on the line that has applied before and was found ineligible for any of those industry requirements or any of the other items we've had previously, please know that has been widened, and we would strongly encourage you to revisit all of the information on our webpage. You should see that link on the slide in front of you that has all that information detailed out.
Okay.
And it will also walk you through all of the required documentation. And likewise, this is the same thing if you have a brick and mortar gallery or other location. What I'd really love to stress is I understand that these applications, you know, there's a lot of applications out there right now. It can get really confusing. One might ask for this, another one might ask for that. It can get overwhelming in what is already a very stressful time to operate a business. And so what I really want you to know is if you have applied previously and were denied and you need information on why or how to avoid that, we will help you do that. We have a staff team that is answering emails and phone calls to help our businesses successfully apply for this program. Our goal is to lend out all the money, or to grant out all the money. It is not to keep it. So we want to make these awards, and we want to help you get there. If you are saying, I think I might try this application, but I'm concerned. I don't know. I've maybe never done an application for a grant program like this. We have a webinar that you can access 24/7 at your convenience on the stpetegreenhouse.com page, and you can access it. It's called Fighting Chance Fund Round 3. It's about 30 minutes long. It answers some frequently asked questions. It gives some tips and tricks on how to successfully complete your application. And then our staff does walk through an example application so you can really see each section. So I would strongly encourage any interested applicant to spend a few minutes on that webinar, because it is very, very helpful as you're moving forward with an application.
Thank you so much, Jessica. We are going to, of course, have questions for you later on. And again, to our participants, if you will put the questions in the Q&A, if any of our panelists can answer questions directly, please do so. Also be mindful that now we've heard from 2 entities that said that they have a personal person available to you to help you navigate this system. And that seems to be a challenge generally, not even in COVID times, of having the appropriate documents available, so when it's time to pull the trigger and do this and apply for these grants, that you have the information so you're not filtered out, and that you've checked every box to make sure you have the best opportunity to get the money. I love what you said about that it's your goal to give out all the money, not to keep any. I had one other question though before we move on to Dr. Johnson and Daisy Rodriguez of the Pinellas Cares Fund for Individuals and Pinellas Cares Small Business Grants in Pinellas County Economic Development, and that is about rounds. You said that there were 2 rounds already. So is there going to be a hard deadline for this funding, or is it just until the money is gone?
That is a great question. We do not have a hard deadline. So our goal, as I mentioned, is to utilize all the funds that have been allocated for this program. We anticipate, however, based on the eligibility being widened for this round and the inclusion of home-based businesses, that we do expect to exhaust the remaining funds in the program during this round. If we find that to not be the case, we will continue to tweak the program and have it evolve so the businesses that need this are able to access the funds until we have exhausted those dollars.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica.
But it is, I will say it is first come, first complete. So it is real important when you make that application, it is a complete application. That's kind of what locks you in the review line. So as we near fund exhaustion, we will go, we will have an order in which we will be reviewing and completing those reviews to be as fair as possible. And so if you're interested at all, I would not sleep on it. Check out the webpage. Get some information. If you have questions, let us know. And I would strongly encourage getting that application in.
Thank you. So Jessica, we're going to have you hold. If for some reason we can see your lovely face, we'll do that later. We're going to move on, and I would ask
Thank you.
Rodriguez and Dr. Cynthia Johnson to make sure your video and your microphones are on so we can see you. And I think, Daisy, you're going to start first with resources that are helpful. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all. Pinellas County received funding under the Federal CARES Act. And one of the programs that was developed to help residents impacted by COVID is the Pinellas Financial Assistance Program. The program does, excuse me, the program does provide financial assistance to individuals and families for a maximum allowance of $4,000 per household. It provides financial assistance for past due rent, mortgage, and utilities. In order to qualify, the individual must document proof of residency, proof of citizenship. There must be documented proof of loss of income, wages, furlough, maybe the business closed, any type of documentation related to that, showing that there has been a loss of income and that it's a direct impact from COVID. You must be at 200% of the federal poverty level, at least for this round one, at the time that you make application. So what that means truly is that regardless of what you earned last year, if when you're making application, if you have zero income, you would qualify, assuming that all the other criteria are met. And you cannot have more than $4,000 worth of cash or liquid assets. So in your bank account, it cannot exceed the $4,000 limit. To date, so far, we contract with 211, who's administering the program for us. And to date, we have paid over $1 million out in funding, and we have $3 million in process. So applications that are still in process that are equating up to $3 million at this point today. We expect that there's going to be much, much more. One of the things that we have asked a lot of people in the community, a lot of our community stakeholders, our partners in the community, and anybody that's listening, is that when you're going to submit your documents, the proof that I indicated earlier, is to please collect those all at one time and submit them all at one time. One of the common delays that we're finding is that people might be sending one or two pieces of the documentation requirement. It causes the staff to have to reach back out. Sometimes it goes into a spam. Sometimes people don't answer their email. Sometimes they don't answer their telephone. So it really creates a backlog for the individual who really needs the assistance, as well as the staff who are working continuously processing these applications. So we ask, please, again, if you're going to submit all the documents. If you're working with people in the community, please help them understand and get those documents together to submit them all at one time. The fastest way to access the services is to text COVID Cares to 898-211. That will walk you through a series of questions. One of the questions is this COVID related? And if you say yes, then it will take you to the website. On the website, it will go ahead and list all of the documentation requirements as well as some examples. So proof of residence, your utility bill could be a proof of residence. Your driver's license could be a proof of residence. So it does provide some examples of what you can utilize to help facilitate that for you. And then at the end of it all, it will prompt you to go to a specific email address where you can upload all of your documents. You can also take pictures on your iPhone. We ask that whatever it is that you're submitting, especially if they're pictures, that they're legible, because once they transfer over, they may not be as legible. And we need to be able to see the documentation in order to move that application forward. If people don't have the technology or don't feel comfortable with using the texting mechanism, they can always call 211. There are people who will answer the phone live and who will provide them the same information as to what those requirements are. and what the next steps with them would be. This was our phase one, which is scheduled to end on June 30th. We wanted to get the money out quickly. We wanted to work with people quickly. This was really intended to be, a gap to help people get over and quite frankly, not knowing what was going to happen after March or April. And, for the love of God, here we are going into July, right? So internally in the county, there are teams that are working to look at what a phase two might look like and looking at extending and further streamlining the documentation process, maybe reducing some of the documentation burden that we currently have to help people get the money a lot faster. And that should be going before the board. It's anticipated to go before the Board of County Commissioners next week on Tuesday.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Before we move on to Dr. Johnson, a couple of questions that come to mind for those people who do not understand what 211 is. Can you explain the relationship with 211? And then I'll follow up with the question I have on checklists and technology. But if you could go with that question first.
Sure. So 211 is the county's information and referral system. We have a contract with them for a multitude of programs. You would just call 211 and they have all of the staffing and all of the equipment to be able to facilitate that process for us.
Okay. And you also mentioned a lot of documents that you need and you don't need them in a piecemeal fashion. And seeing as we are at June 25th and hopefully some of the participants today will apply, but they have 5 days. Is there a checklist, so to speak, of what they need that will get their application in complete as quickly as possible?
Yes, you can either go on the county website or you can go to the 211 website. There is a list of all of the documentation. I also want to say that if there's one piece of document that you cannot get by June 30th, submit as much as you can now. The phone call in itself does not open up a case. So once you start submitting your documentation, that's what opens up your case number, and they will continue to work that beyond the June 30th deadline.
Thank you so much. And finally, from a technological aspect, I know a lot of people are having challenges just with, access to technology that many of us take for granted. Do you have any suggestions or support for someone who's trying to rapidly get this information to you?
Yeah, it is one of the things that we recognize. I have asked a lot of the community stakeholders who are working with people in the community, again, to help them and help identify people in the community who might need the help, have to help them gather those documents, and they can submit on behalf of those clients.
Okay, well, thank you.
Great,
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Johnson, you're up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Cynthia Johnson. I'm the Director of the Office of Small Business and Supplier Diversity. And I too am working the Pinellas Cares program, but basically focusing on business. We did receive some federal dollars to support small business sustainability. And our grant opened on Monday, May the 4th. And our team has been reviewing the applications and working very diligently to get them through as quickly as possible. And we cannot emphasize the importance of doing a complete application. I mean, actually gathering all of your documents before you sit down to submit. And I will answer that question about, is there an eligibility check sheet before I get into the details? And yes, we do. We have an eligibility check sheet that one can go through and make sure that they have all of the documentation prior to applying. One of the things that has happened over the last 2 months that we've been implementing this program is that we have received over 6,000 applications. As of yesterday, we have actually processed over 2,100 applications, and we have received completed applications, 4,800. So that's almost 2,000 applications that are not complete. So it is important for us to complete the applications. But the good news is, I always like to talk about the money that's actually in the pockets of the business owners. So as of yesterday, we have administered 2,100 checks for over $10.4 million in the pockets of our small business community. So it is to our goal to get the money out there. We don't want to keep the money. The whole idea of the program is to help sustain the businesses and to make sure that we're supporting the small business community. As it relates to the eligibility, this is a one-time grant, and it is a grant. You don't have to pay the money back. It's a one-time grant, but the business must demonstrate that they did receive some economic injury as it relates to COVID-19. It also needs to demonstrate that that business did have actual business going on and the injury exceeded the $5,000 as of March the 1st of 2020. One of the other major requirements of our program is that you must have 1 to 25 FTEs. And we will be verifying that employment number for every application. The business has to have a physical location. That means for phase 1, we are not accepting home-based businesses at this very time. And we're asking that your business must have been in operation at least by October the 1st of 2019 for you to apply for this phase 1 program. The other requirement is that we want to award these grants to businesses who demonstrate that they have every intent to continue business. So if you're closed and you're done with business ownership, then you would not apply. But if you have an intent to continue the business after the grant period, then that is one of the requirements. And then we have asked that we have no publicly traded companies. They are ineligible for this business grant. So pretty much we're looking for businesses, small businesses in our community that meet these criteria to apply. Now we do have some small businesses in the community that are definitely ineligible. They may meet some of the criteria, but we have a few items that are going to keep you from phase 1. We too are in the process of strategizing what a phase 2 would look like should the Board of County Commissioners agree for phase 2 to occur. Like Daisy, we're waiting for Tuesday, June the 30th to come along so we can see that board meeting and start getting our strategy together for the next round, if you will. So with our program, we know that we can't have home-based businesses for phase 1, nor are we funding nonprofit organizations. The nonprofit organizations, we identify them as charitable organizations, and we know that they receive funding from private donors and other government sources. So for phase 1, they are not eligible for our program. Businesses will not be eligible if you have a code enforcement lien or some type of fine that's within the court system. It's been pretty interesting working this because this too, Kim, is a collaborative effort. So it's not just economic development. We've been working with the court, the clerk of the courts, and the Internal General's Office, OMB. And so we have had a collaborative, if you will, to service these business grants to the community. So you have any unpaid code enforcement liens, they actually do research that. I get to be the code enforcement lady, so I got to do a little investigation.
You guys are working with people who have those challenges, correct?
Absolutely. What we do is we don't automatically say you can't apply. What we do is help you identify that there is an issue.
Yes.
And we give you an opportunity to satisfy that issue. Sometimes as a small business owner, you get so tied up running the business that little things may drop, through the cracks. And this is just a way to help make sure that they're being a viable business. So we've been able to help a lot of them come into compliance, and they're very appreciative of just knowing that there was an issue, because many times they don't know that there is an issue. And then lastly, the item that is ineligible is if a business owner, officer, partner, or principal actor has a felony conviction for financial mismanagement within the last 2 years. that he or she is still servicing a sentence. So that would include if they're, still in prison or on parole or probation, and it has to be related to financial mismanagement. So that is an area too that will disqualify you for eligibility. Now, the good news is how to apply. I always like to mention the W-9 first. The W-9 is a form that includes your tax ID or your social security number if you're a sole proprietor, but this is how the county pays you your money. No W-9, no check.
Yeah.
So we always have, make sure you have that W-9 and have it correct. So that's how we administer the checks. And we will be checking with SunBiz, which is Florida Department of Corporations, to make sure that you have an active business status. It is not required for everyone, but we also check with each of the municipalities that have businesses and business tax license. So if the municipality has a business tax receipt that is required, we also require that as part of the documentation needed. The financials are very important for us to really determine that you are a viable business in operating. We're looking at your 2019 tax returns or your 2018 +1. And that +1 could be a 2019 balance sheet or a 2019 profit and loss statement, because many of our small businesses did take advantage of the extension to file their 2019 tax returns, so they may not have those back. So we're trying to be accommodating in that area. And then again, you have to have proof of your employees. And for sole proprietors, you may own the business and you're the only one working within the business. For our phase 1 program, you too can qualify for this program. So you as a sole proprietor would count yourself as the sole employee of that business, which is a little different than most programs have done in the past. It's just saying you have to have +1, but when it comes to sole proprietors, you are the one that works in that business. We have a sole proprietor statement that we have created because you won't have necessarily the 941 or the W-3 or the employment verification, but you just sign that statement and we utilize that statement as employee verification.
Dr. Johnson, you've given us a lot of great information because we have 2 other presentations we're going to move forward. But I'm going to ask the panelists at this time, will you please go into the Q&A and start asking questions that are directly related to them. So I want to give you an opportunity, Dr. Johnson, to wrap up your presentation so we can move on to Reverend Haynes and Shana Bent as well. Time frame wise, we will likely go over for this program. We think it's important because the issues are very substantive and it's great information to help us all process this. And I'd also like to take the time to say that, this is a new normal for everyone. People who had access before don't have access. People are learning about these programs for the first time and having to utilize them in a meaningful way. So we appreciate all the panelists' time to really explain the best way to approach these grants and opportunities. Dr. Johnson, I'm gonna let you finish up.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everyone that June 30th is the deadline for the phase 1 program. And we will make sure that the community is aware if and when we start a phase 2. And then lastly, I just want to reiterate the fact that before you apply, please make sure that you gather all of the necessary documents, and you can use some of our community partners to assist, like the Chambers of Commerce, and my friend who's coming up next, Mr. Watson Haynes. You can go to the Urban Lead and they will assist you with the application as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. And I want to reiterate too that it's wonderful that you all work together, but it's also really truly a great asset that each of you all seem to have your own personal, whether you call it a navigator or assistant or someone to answer the phone to answer these questions. So especially in light of the deadline, please take heed to the tips that you are receiving to receive this money. So with that, Dr. Johnson, thank you again. I'm going to have Reverend Watson Haynes, who is the president and CEO of the Pinellas County Urban League. I'd also like to say that Watson serves on our board for the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions. So thank you, Watson. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Attorney Jackson, and certainly thanks to Dr. Johnson for introducing me before I got here. Let me talk about the Serious Business Academy of the Pinellas County Urban League. It started about 5 years ago, and over the period of time became an entrepreneur center here at the Pinellas County Urban League. I think Kim Vogel said it right. While you were working in your business, you did not have time to work on your business. And so that's what we do here at the Urban League. We have 4 persons who are actually certified through the NDC, National Development Council, as economic development specialists. In essence, they're capable of putting together packages to make you bankable. And if you're not bankable, they work with other funding sources to provide funds. And so part of the Academy's responsibility is providing QuickBook training, working with branding and marketing. You know, sometimes you don't have time for these things, but now is really the right time. Business taxes, some of the greatest challenges we have is businesses that come and they've not paid taxes. They thought that they were going to have to pay a whole bunch of money for things, and they don't. So we actually have those 4 certified specialists who are coaches. So they work one-on-one and virtual. So they don't have to necessarily come in and then provide all of the other services that we offer through the Urban League. So it's not just this one-shot deal. We want to hold your hand all the way through your success so that you come back one day and give the Urban League $1 million and say, thanks for your help. We offer, if you reside in the CRA, if that artist resides in the CRA, we can provide things like uniform, transportation assistance, those kind of things. But also here at the Urban League, we're able to provide opportunities on certifications through St. Petersburg College, through Pinellas Technical College. We can arrange for mental health services through the WELL. There will be offered this year franchising opportunities by the International Franchising Association, who will basically say, if you ever want to own a franchise, talk with the Urban League and they'll be able to make that happen. Our services are virtual. We do also offer assistance in jobs, because sometimes an artist might decide, you know, I'm going to still do my thing, but I need to go ahead and find some other opportunities, especially because of the pandemic. We offer job assistance as an Urban League. If your utilities have been shut off, we can pay your utilities up to $2,000 while the money is available. We received from the Department of Economic Opportunity just this week the authorization to spend a little more, $2.1 million for energy assistance for persons who need that. And so that's available. Our thing is, don't feel that this is something that you're begging for. Yes. You as taxpayers, you've already paid for this service. So don't feel embarrassed that, you know, I've got to ask for help. Ask for help. That's what you've already paid for. You just not used it. We have people who've never been unemployed a day in their life. And they're now coming to us saying, I feel so bad, asking for assistance. I said, you've already paid. You paid into the system, and the dollars that's coming are your dollars. And all we do here at the Urban League is do what we can to make sure you access your dollars and the services that's offered out there by many of these organizations. We want to work hand in hand with you, whether you just started in business or whether you want to expand your business. We here at the Urban League provided funds to do that, one through the governor's office and also through some of the other funding, including banks who's supporting our efforts.
I can't thank you enough for saying that last statement about, you know, asking for help. we're at a time frame where, and I'm not going to get to all the questions that we've been discussing as we've prepared for this event, but people have vulnerability with, with food, with shelter, as we'll hear in our next presentation, with, with Wi-Fi and technology. And when you are new normal with everyone working in the same home, sometimes creates some mental health challenges and challenges with just trying to balance everything in the home. So it's important to say that you're not alone. Everyone, regardless of their circumstance, is impacted by COVID. And we have a community that cares. And so this is important information to know that we just want to direct you to the right entities so that you have the appropriate resources to get what you need as a community, and know that those resources are there. And with that, I'm going to turn the last presentation to Shana Bent, and thank you, Reverend Watson Haynes. And as I like to often call him, I'll call him off record, my friend and uncle and mentor.
Uncle Watson.
So thank you so much for your
Thank you.
presentation. And I'd like to now turn it over to Shana Bent, who is our CEO of the St. Petersburg Free Clinic. Shana does a phenomenal job of working with our most vulnerable in our community on a day-to-day basis. The St. Petersburg Free Clinic has had to work exceptionally hard to gear up resources and has met every challenge. And Shana, I just want to thank you for the service you do every day, even outside of COVID. You work hard to make sure our community has what it needs. And with that, I'd like you to introduce yourself and share a little bit about what the St. Pete Free Clinic does for the community.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to everyone today. The St. Petersburg Free Clinic has been in our community for 50 years. This is our 50th anniversary. And what a way to spend it. So we help our community in the areas of food, shelter, and healthcare. And so anyone who's in need of food can access our food pantry. Our food pantry is open to any resident of Pinellas County. It does not matter what your income is. It does not matter if you've been negatively affected by COVID. Just know that we are there for anyone who needs help. And to echo what Reverend Haynes said, if you need help, please come get it. That is why we exist. That is why we do what we do. We have found that over half of the people who are coming through the lines for food have never before been to a food pantry. So know that if this is your first time, you are not alone, that there are thousands of other families in this community who are facing the same challenges. And that's why we want to assist. And so you can visit our food pantry that's located on 3rd Avenue North. It is drive-through, it is contact-free. You simply drive through, someone will ask you how many people are in your household. You will pop your trunk, we will load it full of food that includes many fresh items like produce, fresh milk, frozen meats, bread, and some canned goods, and you will drive on your way. We make it really easy. And again, it is open to absolutely anyone who's in need of assistance. If you need other items such as diapers or baby formula, call and ask. We often have these things, not always, but we try and keep them in stock. So if you have special requests, certain items that your family needs, certainly call and ask, because we want to be able to assist if we can. Other areas of assistance, we do offer some financial assistance. We assist with water bills, we assist with getting an ID. But one of the most important things we do is we assist navigating other resources and applying for benefits. So if as an individual, you're looking for assistance with utilities or rent, or you want to apply for SNAP and you're not quite sure how that works, we have a client advocate on staff who has all of these answers. She can help you. We also have plenty of other staff members and volunteers who are helping us answer the phones, but she will return your call by the next business day. So if you are just overwhelmed by the resources available, call and ask. It's a difficult time. It's a difficult system to navigate. And sometimes we all need a little help. And that is why we are here. And Lisette is more than happy to answer your questions. If you're facing housing insecurity, we have residential programs for men, women, and families. More information about that is available on our website. The intake procedures are all a little bit different and specific. So you can either visit our website or call Lisette and she can walk you through those and discuss your particular circumstances. And lastly, we also have a health center. So our health and dental clinic, which is on 4th Street, assists with a variety of primary care services. We reopened this week and are taking all of the necessary precautions to keep everybody safe. And so our health center is open to anyone who is uninsured between the ages of 18 and 64 and is below the 200% below the federal poverty level. And if you don't have current insurance, medical or dental insurance. If you have questions whether or not you qualify, if you have questions about where else to go, please call and talk to us. We want to be a resource for you. If we can't help you, we certainly want to be able to point you in the right direction. And we have a long list of other resources that are available in our community. Again, we just want to be of assistance. And if you think you need assistance, then let us help you because that's what we're here for.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask all the panelists, of course, to make sure their videos are present and their microphones are on. Of course, we're not going to get to every question, but I did want to say that the presentation will be available. That's been asked. It usually takes us a little bit of time, but we will get the presentation up and we will make sure that every partner has it and they will place it on their websites. Of course, you can, all the entities and organizations have indicated that there is a person available for you to speak with to get your questions answered. There are a couple of questions I would like to answer. And again, if you have to leave, we understand. We're going to try to get to the last couple of questions before we wrap up. And one is, how long does it take to process an application for the Fighting Chance Fund for small business? If someone could answer that one, I think that would be.
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
But finally got it to work on the video. So hello, everybody. So really the turnaround time is pretty quick. Our goal is no more than 45 days. However, we've been trending, I would say, faster than that. And basically there are 3 levels of review it goes through. Once that final level and approval happens, it's about a 24 to 48 hour turnaround. So it is a pretty, I mean, as far as government programs go, it's a pretty quick turnaround. I would say that the system we use allows for you to kind of see where you're at and ask questions along the way. So in real time, you know where you're at. And if you're like, hey, I haven't heard anything, where are you? One of our reviewers will get that notice and let you know where you're at. So we definitely encourage to utilize that tool. And I would say the staff team knows this is an important time to get these funds in your hands. So nobody's sleeping on it. We are moving it as fast as we can, given the load that's coming in. So never feel bad about saying, hey, I have an open app and I want to know where I'm at. Our system's set up for us to be able to communicate that with you.
And Jessica, there's another question. The question was related to if you're a small business. This is basically an art entrepreneur, and you might be able to answer directly to them in the Q&A, but they don't have the gross revenue from last year listed. Will you open the criteria up to smaller businesses, do you think?
I'm not sure yet. So we're going to see how the funds go in this. And I think we definitely, if we have remaining funds and it's not exhausted with these criteria, we would go out and continue to expand that out. How exactly, I can't say at this time, but I will just reiterate, our goal is to utilize every dollar in that account that's been allocated for this fund. And so if we get to a point in a few weeks where it hasn't been exhausted, that is definitely something that our team and administration and leadership will all discuss. If we feel like that's the next step, I think everybody would be prepared for that, but I can't promise that at this point.
Okay, this is for Pinellas Cares. Will they be opening up to nonprofit organizations in phase 2?
For the business component, we have not solidified the criteria for that, so I don't have an answer to that. But I did want to say that if a business has applied for the Fighting Chance Fund, they still can apply for the Pinellas Cares business grant. So they can apply for both. And that's with, any community, you can apply for Pinellas as well as the other grant programs.
Wonderful. And my apologies, I want to make sure that I get this right with the video that was mentioned with Grow Smarter. So can we talk about a little bit about the video, where they can find that, and for that webinar to really explain how to apply?
Really, I think that might have been for a different program.
I think
Scholarship.
Yeah, for Fighting Chance, we do have a video. And so that's available on the Greenhouse website. If you haven't been at stpetegreenhouse.com, you'll see on your search, on the main search bar, trainings and workshop events. We would just ask that you would click that and you would see it come up as one of our online videos. And again, that's just a helpful way to get you prepared. Much like Dr. Johnson said, kind of getting all those ducks in a row and all that paperwork compiled. This is something we would really strongly encourage you to take a minute to look at, just to kind of help empower you through the process.
Well, thank you. I want to say, I would like John to say some words before I say some final words on this program. John came with the interest of helping, and after reading literally hundreds of grants, heard the call that we need some help. And he was joined by Julie and Barbara and their determination to make sure that this information was available to the broader community. So John, would you like to say anything before I give some final remarks?
Thanks for the opportunity, and really all I have to say is thanks to you and the panelists. I mentioned this once before. The amount that's available countywide is astonishing. If people will just take the time, and I know our artists and our creatives, heaven forbid they should sit down and look at a budget, but if you will just take the time to do that and call any one of these arts navigators who have spoken to you today, you will get help. So that was our purpose, to bring this help to you, to help you find where you can go. And if you email us at the Arts Alliance, or perhaps through this, we can also email you a list of many other things that are available, grants and other support for musicians, dancers, actors, all of our creative businesses. So with that, I thank you all again.
And Barbara, or if you're still on, if you'd like to say anything about the resources or what you're hearing in the community that you'd like to share. Barbara still on? We might have lost Barbara. Okay. Well, that being said, I just want to say specifically, I really value the community. I involve myself in these meaningful programs because a community is stronger when we're stable, and we are stable when our basic needs are met. And so again, I would like to say the Institute is a convener to say what the scope of what government can and cannot do for you. We're here to be solution oriented. And right here on this particular panel, you have government entities and nonprofits who are willing to help and really support the community during these challenging times, which we don't know how long they're going to go for. For example, with the St. Petersburg Free Clinic, when you talk about housing or food or health, and when you talk about programs with the different business entities and municipalities and nonprofits in terms of them giving you the money to do what's necessary. Again, I would say if you need help, ask for it. And particularly with the Urban League, $200 for bills, for utility bills, that's life-saving. But more importantly, we don't get our questions answered if we don't ask. So please take the time to ask. I like to welcome you, like to say thank you and welcome you to come to the Institute if you have any further questions about what we do. And with that, I'm going to end the program and thank each of our panelists for your time and for your information. We will provide additional information resources, again, thanks to John, at the end of this program that we will provide when we send out the links. Thank you and take care.